Good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen. So, as Rita said, I'm Kevin Doolin. I'm the project coordinator for DEMETER, and you're all very welcome this morning. And particularly, it's great to see all our open call participants here. They provide a very important function in terms of verifying the importance and applicability of the results of the DEMETER project. So I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of DEMETER and where we stand. So first of all, DEMETER falls projects that are looking at the area of digitalization of the European industry, and obviously digitalization of the agricultural supply chain from farm to fork is key to what DEMETER is about. In terms of where we sit in line with some other projects that you might be aware of, we're listed under the, let's say, technology development pillar of digital transformation by the European Commission. Now, I would also argue that we should be probably also in the uptake pillar, because we've done a lot of work engaging with external stakeholders and farmers to determine what would drive them to adopt and uptake technologies such as DEMETER. We have a sister project called Atlas, which is looking at similar topics with more of a hardware focus, whereas DEMETER is more firmly, I suppose, software focused in terms of the operability mechanisms that we put in place. So, in a nutshell, DEMETER is a 60-partner project spanning 18 different countries. We have 20 different pilots within the project running across 5 different agricultural sectors. And you can see some of the statistics there of the size and scale of the various pilots that we have within DEMETER as well. An important element here is the fact that we have the World Farmers Organization as one of the engaged entities on the project, particularly around dissemination and communication of project results. And that's also particularly important as well for our open call participants, because they have the potential through webinars such as this and through the WFO to have a quite extensive audience for their outputs. There's a number of challenges that we're addressing within the DEMETER project, and we are nearly finished. So we're finished at the end of August. So we've completed our response to most of these challenges. But just to frame it, the first challenge is about putting farmers in control of the knowledge they can obtain from the data that's relevant to their specific requirements and activities, like moving from the present situation or I should say past situation before DEMETER, where farmers can be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of data, into one where they can benefit from insights of that data. And through that, we look at things like, for example, decision support systems. The second challenge is related to the deployment model, in the context where the lifespan of ag tech really extends in some cases well over 20 years. How do you protect those existing investments made by farmers and at the same time bring them into the future by making them part of a digitally enriched ecosystem, such as that provided by DEMETER. Next challenge is about the optimal analysis of data. And again, this would link back to a lot of the work we do in, for example, decision support systems within our pilots in DEMETER as well. So extracting data from multiple different sources and inferring new meaning from that data and then presenting it in a useful way back to farmers. The fourth challenge is about overcoming market barriers, really in a context where large players kind of establish themselves in dominant positions through walled garden models and so on. So we're trying to break those models a little bit through our work in DEMETER, particularly now that we've implemented the agricultural information model, which makes our systems, interoperable with multiple other systems. And I'll talk a little bit about the AIM in a minute. And speaking of the AIM, the fifth challenge is the interoperability and the adoption of technological standards. So our agricultural information model, which has been produced through Work Package 2 in DEMETER, is currently proceeding towards standardization now through OGC. I believe we've other full webinars and around the agricultural information model itself, so I'm not going to go into detail on it. I've presented it before in the open calls webinars. but it's quite important and a significant result that now it's going towards commercialization. I mentioned we have 20 different pilots. Again, very briefly, if you look on the DEMETER website, h2020demeter.eu, you can find our project pilots booklet, which has an overview and more detail on each of the individual pilots that we're running within the project. To somebody new to the project, you might look at this list of pilots and think it's a bit crazy in terms of the very broad reach and coverage of the particular pilots that we have in DEMETER. That was done by design. So, as I said, DEMETER is all about digitalizing of the supply chain in agriculture from farm to fork. And we've created multiple enabling technologies to allow that to happen. So we decided even way back at proposal time, we need to be able to test and verify that premise across multiple agricultural sectors. And that's why you see the many different types of pilots that we have. So our pilots are organized into, I suppose, 5 broad categories that you can see here on the slide, and each with a different focus. So first, we have water and energy management related to arable crops. And here we're looking at things like smart energy management for irrigated crops or optimal rice irrigation. Next, we've got precision farming related to arable crops. And here we're looking at things like, say, in-service agriculture and machinery condition monitoring, or data brokerage and decision support systems. Next, for crop health and quality, this is particularly in the fruit and vegetable sector, it's developing, again, things like decision support systems for olive growers, or looking around areas of like pest management control for fruit flies and so on. Following this, we were on the animal health side, and we're looking where the focus here is on high quality production. We've got dairy farmers dashboard, for example, developed here for the work we're doing in Ireland for the milk production chain, and we've also dashboards created for meat production chains as well. And then finally, we've more kind of cross-sectoral pilots, for example, pollination optimization in apiculture, or enabling transparency in the poultry industry supply chain. So quite a broad reach, and it's great to see that all of these pilots have run very well, and we're currently in our second phase of piloting, and they're nearing completion. It's important to note as well that we have multiple KPIs associated with these pilots, just to verify their usefulness, I should say, and benefits. So I've already, in terms of results, I've already mentioned the work that's ongoing with the agricultural information model. I'm not sure, are we distributing these slides after the event, but I can make them available if people want to email me. I'll put my contact details there, because we have links to the AIM itself, for example, and our pilot descriptions and so on. As I said, the pilots are nearing completion, and what's important for us now is to be very clear on if we've met our targets and surpassed our targets in terms of KPIs. So just to give you some examples, so under the smart irrigation, the KPI there was a reduction in motor usage of around 10%. After the first round of pilots, that currently stands at a reduction of 11%, so we see that as a success. Water salinity reduction in rice crops, the KPI was to reduce to have it less than or equal to 3. We've currently hit that target there as well. Decision support system usage by farms, the KPI there was to have at least 45 farms using our decision support systems, and after pilot round 1, that figure stands at 55. And just as another example for chicken farm management, the one KPI in there was about the reduction in farm labor through the introduction of more automated processes and decision support systems and so on. The KPI was to reduce the labor requirement by about 10%. And after pilot round 1, we're currently standing at between 5 and 15%. And the reason for the variance there is because of the size and scale of the different farms involved in the pilots. All final KPIs will be reported in deliverable D57, which will be published at the end of August, or after the end of the project. Just some other quick statistics and results from our work that we've gone under. To date, we've had about 4,100 farmers engaged in the project via the pilots and via dissemination events, webinars, conferences, workshops, and so on. We've also done a survey with the farming community engaged within the pilots to gauge their user acceptance and satisfaction of the technologies that have been produced by DEMETER. So a notable result there is their likelihood to recommend the technology from DEMETER. The average score there is about 7.5 out of 10, which is quite a positive score. We also did what you might be interested in as a farmer's voice survey, which looks at the challenges that the farming community faces when thinking about adopting different types of technologies and new solutions. So we did an extensive survey there, and that's also published on the DEMETER website. Our pilot booklet is now translated into 16 different languages. We've had 3 articles published by for the World Farmers Organization. We've done a number of initiatives and articles on gender issues in farming. And for example, we've got some articles on gender on the Smart Agri Hub's website. We've over 66 scientific publications in journals and conferences, and we've presented at over 110 conferences to date and produced 26 white papers. So as you can see, we're putting a very heavy focus, particularly now in this last phase of the project, on completing the pilots, ensuring we meet our KPIs, and then pushing out the results and disseminating as far and wide as we possibly can. If anyone wants any more details on the project and on the results or where to access data, my contact details are there. I can leave them on screen for a second if people want them. But you can get me at kevin.doolin@waltoninstitute.ie.